The sound that pulled Deacon back into consciousness was not loud, not sharp, but constant, a low mechanical hum that seemed to vibrate through his bones before it reached his ears. It was unfamiliar, disorienting, layered over a pressure in his head that made every thought feel delayed, as if his mind were struggling to catch up with reality. His eyes opened slowly, unwillingly, the world coming into focus in fragments that refused to align into something recognizable. For a moment, he could not place himself, could not understand why his body felt so heavy, why his limbs responded as if they belonged to someone else. Then the movement registered, a subtle shift beneath him, a steady forward motion that did not belong to any room, any building, any grounded place. The realization came not as a clear thought, but as a sensation first, a deep unease that tightened his chest before his mind could give it form. He was not still. He was not safe. He was somewhere in transit, carried towards something he had not chosen. The memory struck him all at once. The apartment, the drink, the heaviness that had followed. Sheila, his body tensed instinctively, the fog of sedation breaking apart under the force of adrenaline as awareness flooded back in sharp, disjointed bursts. He pushed himself upright, the effort sending a wave of dizziness through him that threatened to pull him back down, but he forced himself to stay present, to focus, to understand where he was. And then he saw her. Sheila sat across from him, perfectly composed, her posture relaxed in a way that felt disturbingly at odds with the situation. There was no chaos in her expression, no trace of the violence it had taken to bring him here. Instead, there was something else entirely. Satisfaction, calm, a quiet certainty that radiated from her like something sacred. She smiled. It was not warmth that defined that smile. It was ownership. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched, heavy and charged, filled with everything that had already been done and everything that was about to unfold. Deacon's breath came slower now, controlled, but beneath that control was a rising anger that threatened to break through at any second. His mind raced, trying to calculate distance, possibility, escape, but the reality around him offered nothing to hold on to. The cabin was small, enclosed, isolated. The windows revealed nothing but sky. They were airborne. Where are we going? His voice came out rough, edged with something that was not just confusion, but fury barely contained. Sheila did not answer immediately. She let the question hang between them, as if it amused her, as if his need for information was something she could afford to indulge slowly. Her gaze never left him, her attention absolute, unwavering, as though every reaction he had was something to be studied, absorbed, cherished. Somewhere safe, she said finally, her tone soft, almost gentle, as if she were offering comfort rather than revealing the depth of what she had done. Somewhere no one can take you away from me again. The words landed with a force that made everything else fall into place. This was not temporary. This was not impulsive. This was permanent. The anger surged then, breaking through whatever restraint he had tried to maintain. It was immediate, explosive, fueled not just by fear, but by the realization of how far she had gone, how completely she had dismantled his life in a matter of hours. He pushed forward, his movement still unsteady but driven by instinct, by the need to confront, to resist, to reassert some form of control over a situation that had been taken from him entirely. You drugged me. You kidnapped me. You think this is love? His voice rose, cutting through the confined space, sharp and unfiltered. Sheila did not flinch. If anything, the intensity seemed to draw her closer, to deepen whatever conviction she already held. She reached out, her hand finding his with a precision that suggested she had anticipated this moment, had rehearsed it in her mind long before it became real. Her grip was firm, unyielding, not forceful enough to restrain him physically, but deliberate enough to make a point. You don't understand yet, she said quietly. But you will. He tried to pull away, but her hold tightened just enough to resist, just enough to remind him that even here, even now, she had control over the terms of their interaction. The proximity between them felt suffocating, not because of the physical space, but because of what it represented. There was no escape here, no interruption, no external force that could intervene. "We're going somewhere they can't find us," she continued, her voice carrying a strange kind of calm that made the situation feel even more dangerous. An island. Remote. Quiet. Ours. The word lingered. Ours. It was not an invitation. It was a claim. He knew what happened when Sheila felt challenged too directly, too aggressively. It did not weaken her. It sharpened her. So he adjusted. The anger did not disappear, but it shifted, buried just beneath the surface where it could still drive him without betraying him. He met her gaze, not with submission, but with something more controlled, more deliberate. If he was going to survive this, if he was going to find a way out, he would have to think differently. Back in Los Angeles, the shift in reality was just beginning to unfold. Taylor did not expect anything unusual when she arrived at Deacon's apartment. Her intention had been simple, almost mundane, to cancel their plans, to address something that had been weighing on her mind, something she had not yet fully resolved. But the moment she stepped inside, something felt wrong. It was not immediately obvious. The apartment looked as it always did, the furniture in place, the space intact, untouched in any way that would signal disturbance. But there was a stillness that did not belong, a silence that felt too complete, too absolute. It was the absence of presence, the absence of energy, the absence of the small, subtle signs that someone had been there recently. Her instincts sharpened. She moved slowly at first, her eyes scanning the room, her mind beginning to assemble possibilities she did not yet want to fully consider. Deacon was not careless. He did not simply disappear without a trace, without a message, without some indication of where he might be. And then she saw it. The bottle. It sat on the counter, empty, positioned in a way that felt wrong, not because of what it was, but because of what it suggested. Taylor stepped closer, her medical instincts immediately taking over, her attention drawn to the details others might have missed. The handwriting was uneven, rushed, but unmistakable in its intent. 3 words that carried more weight than any explanation ever could. "With love, Sheila." The room seemed to close in around her. The connection was immediate, undeniable, and terrifying in its clarity. This was not coincidence. This was not misunderstanding. This was escalation. Sheila had moved beyond manipulation, beyond presence, into something far more dangerous. Taylor did not hesitate. The call connected, and the words came fast, urgent, stripped of anything unnecessary. Deacon was gone. Sheila had taken him. And somewhere above the clouds, far beyond the reach of anything familiar, Deacon sat trapped in a reality that was closing in around him with every passing mile, the distance between him and the life he knew growing wider with each second. The plane did not turn back. It only moved forward. The distance between sky and ground had never felt so absolute, so final, as the small private plane cut through the darkness with a quiet persistence that allowed no interruption. Inside, the air felt thinner, heavier at the same time, as if reality itself had narrowed into a confined space where only 2 truths could exist: Sheila's certainty and Deacon's growing awareness that everything he knew had already slipped beyond his reach. The hum of the engine continued without variation, an indifferent rhythm that neither acknowledged nor cared about the violence of what had been done to bring him here. Deacon forced himself to stay present, to push past the lingering haze in his mind that still threatened to drag him back into disorientation. Each second of clarity mattered. Each observation, each detail could become something useful later, something that might create a fracture in Sheila's carefully constructed reality. He studied the cabin, the layout, the locked compartments, the absence of anything that could be easily turned into a weapon or a tool. Everything had been anticipated. Everything had been stripped down to eliminate risk. Sheila had done this before, not in the same way, not with the same precision, but the pattern was there. Isolation, control, reinvention of reality. And yet, there was something different this time. She was not frantic. She was not unpredictable in the chaotic sense he had once known. She was focused, almost serene, as if she had finally reached a point of clarity that made everything else irrelevant. That calmness was more dangerous than anything else she had ever shown him. She watched him as he shifted, as he forced himself upright, as the anger settled into something more controlled, more deliberate. She noticed the change immediately. Sheila always noticed. It was part of what made her so dangerous, her ability to read people, to adapt, to shift her approach based on what she saw. "You're thinking," she said softly, almost with admiration. "That's good. I don't want you lost in confusion. I want you to understand." The words did not soothe him. They sharpened the reality of his situation. "Understand what?" he asked, his voice steadier now, though the tension beneath it remained. "That you've completely lost control?" Her smile did not fade. If anything, it deepened, as if his resistance confirmed something she had already believed. "No," she replied, "that I finally took control." The distinction was not lost on him. For Sheila, this was not a breakdown. It was a correction, a realignment of something she believed had gone wrong. And in that belief lay the greatest danger of all, because it meant she would not question what she had done. She would not doubt it. She would defend it with everything she had. Deacon leaned back slightly, his movements slow, careful, measured. He could not afford to escalate too quickly. He could not afford to trigger whatever instinct in her might interpret his resistance as a threat to the version of reality she had built. "You think this is going to work?" he said, his tone quieter now, less confrontational but no less firm. "You think you can just take me somewhere, lock me away, and everything's going to fall into place?" Sheila's gaze softened, but not with uncertainty, with conviction. "I know it will," she said, "because this time, there's nothing left to interfere." The words carried weight, not just as a statement of belief, but as a reflection of everything she had removed to make this moment possible. The world they had left behind was not just distant. It was irrelevant in her mind. Every connection, every relationship, every obligation that had once defined Deacon's life had been reduced to obstacles she had already eliminated. But she had underestimated something. Back in Los Angeles, the absence she had created did not go unnoticed. Taylor's call had not just delivered information. It had triggered something immediate and irreversible in the people who understood exactly what Sheila was capable of. Hope's reaction came first as disbelief, a reflexive rejection of something too extreme to accept without resistance. But that disbelief did not last. It fractured quickly under the weight of the evidence, under the familiarity of Sheila's pattern, under the unmistakable sense that this was not speculation. This was happening. Finn's response was different. It was quieter, more internal, but no less intense. He had spent years understanding the psychology behind obsession, behind control, behind the kind of distorted thinking that allowed someone like Sheila to justify actions that others could not even comprehend. But this was not theory. This was personal. This was immediate. "She's not hiding in the city," Finn said, his voice controlled but urgent. "She won't risk that. She's going somewhere isolated, somewhere she's used before, or somewhere she's prepared in advance." The room shifted with that realization. Steffi listened, her focus absolute, her mind already moving ahead, connecting what she had seen, what she had felt, what she knew about Sheila's patterns. The island, the isolation, the need for complete control. "She's taking him out," Steffi said, the words landing with a clarity that cut through everything else. "Not just away from us, away from everything." Hope felt the weight of that immediately, the implication settling into something far more terrifying than a simple disappearance. This was not a situation that could be resolved with time, with patience, with negotiation. This was something that would only become more dangerous the longer it continued. "We need to find her before she disappears completely," Hope said, her voice tightening with urgency. But finding her would not be simple, because while they were searching outward, trying to track movement, to identify routes, to follow the fragments left behind, Sheila had already moved beyond the reach of anything predictable. The plane continued forward. Inside, Deacon's understanding of his situation deepened with every passing minute. He could not rely on rescue. He could not assume that anyone would find him in time. Whatever happened next would depend on what he did here, in this moment, within this confined space where Sheila held the advantage. So he changed his approach. The anger did not disappear, but it shifted into something quieter, something more strategic. And for the first time since he had woken up, something in her expression changed. Not doubt, not suspicion, but something closer to satisfaction. The kind that comes when a plan begins to unfold exactly as intended. "You see it now," she said softly. "You're starting to understand." Deacon did not answer immediately. He let the silence stretch, let her fill it with her own interpretation, let her believe that she was guiding him towards something inevitable. Outside the window, the darkness remained unbroken, but somewhere far below, the world had not stopped moving. And somewhere within that movement, a search had begun, one that would not end quietly. Because this time, Sheila had not just taken Deacon. She had declared war on everything he had left behind, and the people she thought she had removed from the equation.